Welcome to the Money Mentors Podcast.
This podcast is for you, so if you have a retirement question you'd like us to address, reach out to us online anytime at matsonfinancial.com. And from time to time, we like to walk through hypothetical situations based on things that we've seen from clients over the years. And since we've seen so many buyout offers lately, I mean, we've seen some big corporations, people like Meta just recently, or the federal government offering buyouts. I thought, Gary, we'd walk through a case study this week and see how you might approach things differently with this type of client when, again, plans change here. So let's say Mark comes to you, he's 60 years old, and his original plan was to retire in 2 to 3 years from his white-collar management job. But his corporation's trimming 10% of its workforce, and the package they're offering to him at 60 is pretty substantial. So he figures he can live off the severance income until his original expected retirement date, and it does include some health benefits for the remainder of the year. He and his wife have saved really well for retirement, about $1.5 million for retirement in his accounts. She works part-time and plans to continue doing so for a little longer. His biggest concern, he says, is what to do about health care between the ages of 61 and 65 if he takes this offer. And then he's thinking, all right, do I invest that lump sum they give me? Or how do I maximize that money to get the most out of it? And then should he move up his Social Security claiming date too to give him kind of that extra income cushion? So there's a lot to sort out here when you get that offer a little bit earlier than what you were expecting when it comes to your retirement age. Where do you start in a situation like this?
Well, for Mark in this situation, his wife, the first thing he wants to do is take the Social Security claiming early off the table for now.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that he's trying to make a short-term decision, and he's looking at long-term commitments and what that would mean with that. So we want to take that off the table for a moment. Now, the biggest concern is, like he said, is health care. So we know that him and his wife are going to be eligible for what they call workplace health insurance. Mm-hmm. Now, there's also a thing where you can get subsidies. In other words, if you don't earn over a certain amount of money, you get a subsidy from the government. So they will pay up to about 80% of that cost on a monthly basis for those health care benefits. So we really look at the avenue of what he's got for dollars, pay the tax on it this year. The rest of those dollars we can now spread out over time, and then use those dollars and maybe some Roth IRA money to make sure he doesn't go over the threshold, so the government will pick up about 80% of his health care benefits.
Okay.
And then we watch it along the way and making sure that those are all concerns that have been dealt with, and he's getting the money he wants to use for the remainder of the time till he retires. The biggest question for Mark is that we can make this work, but is what are you going to do for the next 2 to 3, maybe 5 years before you get to age 65 Medicare age? Because again, going back to Social Security, if you turn that on, he is precluded from earning over a certain dollar limit, around $21,000. Okay. And if he does go over that, then he starts taking away his benefits. So we don't like to touch those benefits too early because we don't know what the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 years will offer. He might find himself bored in a couple of years because Mrs. is still working. They're not traveling as much as they want to and those type of things. So he's going to go find a job. It picks up health insurance and all that. But now we haven't committed his Social Security where he's going to limit his income. He can actually go to wherever he wants to. The nice thing is about this is Mark can do, for the next 5 years, the type of work he chooses to do, not something that he has to do. So it may be part-time. It might be working with family members, that type of thing, or it could be for income. And we just want to slow the clock down a little bit so he can take advantage of this. But again, he's done enough in retirement savings for them to do what they want to in retirement. Now, how do we finish out the last 2 to 3 years of what they want to do? And it's a great situation for them.
Yeah. And I know in the moment, a lot of people look at that lump sum that perhaps they're offering, and sometimes it looks really attractive, the big number. But Gary, then when you start to break it down by the year and you look at the income, it starts to feel a little bit like, okay, I don't know if I can make this last. So where do you start with investing those dollars and getting the most out of it and making sure it stretches over the time that you need to use it for that retirement income?
First off, if we can keep from paying taxes on those dollars, that's the first thing we want to do. So if we can put some of that into the 401k, push it off so we're not putting those big dollars into a tax plan that you'll never get back is a great idea.
Okay.
Secondly, then we have the after-tax dollars, and how big is it and how far do we have to go? So we've seen it literally where we have people that will get into the plan. They got 5 years in this situation that they want to keep the insurance subsidy coming in. And so we've actually done a short-term home equity line of credit on the home for the last year and a half, and then we can pick that up and pay that off because the credit rates were very, very good. Interest rates are very, very good. So it all depends on where they're at, what the timing of that is. And for any of us to make a decision right today and say, this is what I'm going to do for the next 5 years, we don't like having our client feel boxed in that scenario. We want to have a flexible plan that allows them to do the things that they want to do instead of turning on a plan that says, nope, you can't do that because you made this decision 5 years ago. And if you do it, it's going to cost you 30, 40%. We don't want that to happen for our clients.
I know in some situations, corporations or even most recently with the federal government, sometimes there is sort of a tight deadline and people might feel that pressure. But I would imagine that's even more important for someone to schedule that meeting, sit down with a fiduciary advisor, someone who's actually going to walk through all these different questions with you so that you fully understand what your options look like before you sign any paperwork.
Yeah, we had one client that went through this, and she found out that the company wanted to bring her back, but they wanted to pay her, and she wanted to be paid as a consultant. They couldn't do. So we went back to the corporation and made an offer, and they took it. And that was that she got paid in gift cards. So part of the pay she got as a W-2, a consultant, and the other part was she got paid in gift cards. And so it was a situation where everybody won. So once again, you can look at it and say, this is black and white. It's not always black and white. So we ask questions. We go back and talk to human resources and say, can this possible? Is this possible? Sometimes you can actually extend health services and pay them for it right through the company. Some companies allow this.
Okay.
So once again, there's so many questions you need to ask before you can make that final decision.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Fee-based financial planning and investment services are offered by Matson Financial Services, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services offered through Lakeview Financial Group, LLC, Matson Financial Services, LLC, and Lakeview Financial Group are affiliated. To find out if Matson Financial Services is licensed in your state, please call 800-536-8907.